Joe, also known as Complex Black Boy. I am the founder of BlackBoiComplex, and this is the third Complex Conversations. Hey, if you've been, how many people have been to a Complex Conversation before? Alright, word. So just one person? This is crazy. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? Shout out to Grove. Okay, 2019. Right? Good. So, okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. Seriously, this is even more crazy than I thought. So this is just an opportunity for masculine center folks to really come to Black masculine center folks or of the diaspora to come and kind of just have really introspective conversations with each other and then therefore ourselves. And a lot of people found, well, at least in the past, Complex Conversations have taken it with them and used it in other spaces and, like, you know, had really great conversations when they went home. And that's kind of really what it's all about, bringing the community together. So, yeah, there's a few, so how it usually works, and there really isn't a particular blueprint for it, but in the past, it's just I bring up a few types of different kinds of topics, and then we just talk. And there's no pressure to say anything. You don't have to say, like, speak. It's nothing, none of that. It's just really a place where we can be vulnerable and creative and really talk about problems that are going on in our lives as Black masculine folks and the people who love them, and how we can move forward. Because a lot of times I see conversations that happen and they're just like conversations that we always talk about, right? But they're not really solution oriented, and they don't, to me, I don't really feel like we're moving forward with them. I think they're just kind of just like, oh yeah, let's talk about it, let's have a conversation. But it's not, this I really want to incite change and really create a mindfulness behind it. So that's what this is about. So I had 3 topics that I'd like to talk about, but we can talk about quite a few things. So one of the main things that I've found I grew up in Atlanta, moved to Jersey, spent some time in Boston, my girl lives in Philly, I be in Brooklyn all the time, so I'm kind of like all up in the mix as far as like different spaces, and they're usually all Black, but, because it's not Black, right. But I found that there's, in our community, right, we have a lot of like figures, social figures, people that we see all the time, from place to place. They do this and they do that, and maybe, you know, somebody with a whole bunch of followers features them, and now, you know, we notice they get a little, you know, something a little different about them, but, you know, I know we see it all the time, but a lot of times I find that in our community, we have a lot of people who have these platforms, but don't really do much with them, or don't really do as much as we would expect for them to do. Or maybe they don't even do as much as they think that they're doing, right? A lot of times you hear the conversation where it's like, matter of fact, where it's like, guys, yeah, you know, we're activists out here, but like, what is really activism? What does that really mean? So I would like to have a conversation about, how we can hold figures of our community accountable for, especially if they have that platform, because at one point they were activists and they were in the community and they were doing something, and maybe they're not really doing that anymore, but still have that, like, I guess the foundation of such. So a lot of people who don't really know them, like for instance, any type of white cisgender, because I've noticed that a lot of white cisgender folks come into our community and snatch people up and give them a book deal, or give them some movies, or give them this or that, you know, right? So let me just break it down so y'all know exactly what, give you an example. For instance, Lena Waithe, right? We know Lena Waithe. Does anyone not know who Lena Waithe is? So Lena Waithe is a producer, director,
writer, actor, most known for being an actor.
and some people could say that she was an activist. It was. It's a little touchy. But some people would say, like, that she has done some things that are aligned with activism, right? I don't agree. However, there are a few things that she has said that are a little problematic, and who's not problematic, that's fine. And also, I found that a few people in the community have aligned themselves with Lena Waithe without holding her accountable. So that's what we're getting. So how can we, when we see an example that she's, for instance, she said, oh man, I forgot what white person it was. Peter Rosenberg from Hot 97. She said that he's basically black because he has, talked about black cultures and hip hop and all of that, right? And I think that's like really problematic. I don't think you should be saying anyone is basically black or is an honorary black person or anyone's invited to the cookout when they really haven't done anything and even make the potato salad right. Right, So when we see things like that, I'd like to open up the floor after my final segment, but how do we, when we see somebody doing an amazing thing, a black person in our queer community, when we see somebody doing something amazing, and they're out there and, we want to support them, and then they get the backings that they need, and maybe now they have access to money, therefore access to power, and they start saying and doing and aligning themselves with problematic people. Like, for instance, I don't know if this is true, but what if one day Lena Waithe starts aligning herself with Ellen DeGeneres, who to me is one of the most problematic white lesbians. So how do we hold somebody like that accountable? What does that look like? And now I'm opening up the floor. It's a good thought. You can think of a thought. That's you know what I'm saying? It's definitely worth I think having a conversation about, because as we continue to have Janet Mox and Lena Waithe and a whole bunch of people in our communities that we look to for guidance, or if we look to see, wow, I've never seen anything like this before. How did you get in that place? How did you get that position of power or that gig? Or I'm really interested in that. And you're finally standing up for, finally we have somebody. I think that's kind of like what we think in the back of our heads. Finally we have somebody, and then they do something like that. It's not that I'm really against cancel culture. I don't like to cancel black women especially, black femmes especially. And then, obviously, I don't like to cancel my black brothers, but at a certain point, we have to hold them accountable, and I think love and accountability goes hand in hand, right? So even if we're not even talking about somebody like Lena Waithe or something like that, and it's maybe our friends, maybe you want to hold me accountable, maybe all of a sudden I start hanging with,
R. Kelly.
Yes. Because I'm going to get some like a little stool or something. Yeah. There's mad stools, mad chairs. But yeah, if I start hanging around with somebody like that, I mean, I don't know, because I can't even do that. But if I started aligning myself with somebody who was problematic and said problematic things, or let's say I started aligning myself with organizations, right? So let's say, for instance, I don't know if many people know, but there is what is it called? The Trans Wellness Conference. It's the biggest. I was gonna take it there. It's the I had to take it there. It's Trans Wellness Conference, right? Every year they have that big old thing, right? And some of our biggest leaders in the community go to that. How do we make sure that that's the only platform that we have. How do we make sure that everyone is being held accountable and things are being, put into, plans are being made, conversations are being had so that people don't get hurt, people don't get harmed, things like that, right? So that's a conversation that, if anybody has any thoughts. This is such a safe space. Say what's on.
Okay, hey y'all. I'm holding in a lot over here. I don't.
Trust me, I know.
I don't know. Okay, so I just think that it starts like here.
Right.
Like you're saying, there's a lack of like when people get to a certain access point, it's either they're drifting towards things that it's like they're drifting to things that didn't make sense for their character, and because we assume their character would be more for us, we get into like a space of we're angry with them because like you should be holding this space differently, right?
Agreed.
But maybe they didn't have access to a space like this beforehand. You know what I'm saying? So like this is it. This is like the level of space that people need access to. It's just not everywhere, which is why I'm so excited to be here. You know what I'm saying? Like all at the same token. So I just think that if there were spaces where you could be held accountable before you get to that place, and like you know what I'm saying, you could maybe access that space differently, and they contribute differently with that power that you hold. Like you said, persons might get access to money or access to power, with both come hand in hand, and then they're just like acting stupid. You know what I mean? They're just dumb all of a sudden. Yeah. So I get what you mean, but having this conversation right now in my life, if I was to get to a certain point somewhere else, this would almost convict me. You know what I mean? Like immediately to think like, I'm holding space, and there are a lot of people depending on someone like me holding space.
Yeah. You
get what I'm saying? And I have to uplift that, but it's not held this way. You know what I'm saying? Like you were saying, accountability and things like this is accountability, like being in this space and like seeing the faces that this is what this means to. This is how this works. And like this is the community that is looking at me. So I think it's just different for people who maybe have never been that, or had that, or like had a complex conversation. Maybe you should come.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like that's the real deal. Like people are just unaware or never cared to learn. Even though they are like black and queer folks like us. You know what I mean? They just.
I see it over there. Yeah. Oh wait. Can I get? If you don't want to say your name, that's fine. But if you could at least let us know your pronouns when you speak, so that we can all address you.
Word. I'm he, they, by the way. Okay, Martinez.
Aiden, they, them. So I feel like when we talk about accountability, it's like first, how can we hold someone accountable that doesn't even know they need to be accounted for? So it's like we were saying what we can do is voice our opinion and like make it more loud. That not necessarily cancel, but necessarily voice the opinion that there's something that needs to be accounted for. But it's also how can we hold someone accountable that doesn't feel it. But I also feel like it also comes down to assimilation because when we talk about queer folks who make it in the industry or whatever the case may be, they need more than queer voices, so they start to assimilate into mainstream culture, into cishet normative culture, to like kind of like break away from their identity. And like us as a community, we kind of look at them like you have a platform now, like and also how that thing where not everyone wants to be an activist, but also you have a platform. Right. So it's just like you could use it to your ability to reach out to so many young people, but it also is like I can do that, but also I can assimilate into mainstream culture and try to get the white folks' money or whatever the case may be, the cishet community money, whatever the case may be. But it's also like you have a platform, so it's like push and tug.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? So I would like to ask, especially I'm a little bit more radical. I don't believe that, for instance, I don't believe that I, as a person who for instance, I don't believe that any organization or company or anything that has caused black people harm, black queer people harm, I could never align with it. That's just me. Do you feel as if someone could align with those organizations and somehow gain anything positive for the community for it? Like, is there, like, for instance, okay, for like Chick-fil-A, we already know the history with Chick-fil-A. let's say Chick-fil-A offered to cater this event, right? And I was like, no harm in that. Like, might as well, yeah, sure. Like, where's the line? Like, right? Like, I would say, no, we're good. But like, but where is the line? Some people say, hey, I can't afford to do this on my own. I need a sponsor. It's like when we start getting into the sponsorships, when we start getting into white money, violent past of corporations and companies, putting into our community to, obviously we know that it's not going to it's for them, really, and that's for them to say, like, oh, look, we donated to this and we donated to that. But it's not really like, but in the end we benefit from, like, what do you think about those type of situations where we benefit from it? Like, you guys know what I'm saying? Like, when we benefit from these companies giving to us that have harmful histories and pasts. Like, you know what I'm saying? Could we possibly, is that okay? Do we need to hold anybody accountable if they're doing something like that? What do you guys think?
All right, I counted to 3. Wow, that's like, it's a mix of so many things right there. When you get into a level of people not being able to afford something and they have this like opportunity in their face,
right.
And the white people are like, hey, here's all the money. And you're like, my morals or your money? It's,
yeah.
It is very difficult. And I see that so often in the industry, in the movies, and the things that people are doing just to get there at that thing. So that tells me that there's a lack of community, but there's also a lack of community funding just with us.
Right.
So it's just like, how do we take that mainstream kind of like white folks' money and then like crowdfund it into us, Like, so that when we have these opportunities and people are on platforms and they're like, hey, well, they offered me $2 million, but Chick-fil-A wants me to be the face of their company. No, it's cool. We have also $2 million, and you can have all of your queer values here, and what your black values are here, and like, forget about Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying? And then we're pushing forward our motives and like things that we need as a collective. But I think it starts with, again, so many communities needing to be built in different places. Like we're from Philly. I came from Philly, right? I don't have this space in Philly.
Right.
So this being here is like, okay, we have one here, so that means I need to have one there, and that means somebody else needs to take it to the next home space. You know what I mean? It's a space that needs to kind of like develop, and then we can source each other in different ways. Like, I'm a chef, so people who know in the room, I do know some people here, but for people who don't know, I'm a chef. So, someone offered me, like, I got offers from people who were white that were writing grants, and I got offers from people who were black and writing grants. So it was like, yes, the white people are offering more money. What do I choose?
What do you choose?
I'm choosing the black people.
Okay.
Right, so it was not really a question, but it made me angry to think about it. I thought about it like, ooh, you were right there.
Right.
You were just about taken by the money. You know what I mean? It was just like that. So it tells me that our whole culture of being like so hungry for the money is so easy to get taken away by the other things, and then we twist our morals and we twist our identities and we twist what we believe in to fit because the money said so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, if we could just have the money, then we don't have to do that. So it's like, how do we get there? How do we start to source each other? No, how do we start to... That part. How do we just have the money? What is what we're doing? This is what we're doing. This community, like this space that we're in, they're funding all black, queer, GNC people, and they're only selling the products that come from our community. Like that is where we start. That's exactly where we start. Because we have to fund each other for the things to grow and for the things to move. So I just think that like, if we had more people understanding that way and our people putting into our people and not so much for self, because we can be selfish. We gotta talk to self sometimes, and so it's just like, all right, we gotta work. It's work to do. Yeah, there's nothing else we can say. Like, it's time to start moving the community into funding with each other. And I'm sure I'm seeing Kay over there.
Okay.
And I was remember it's like it also goes down to rainbow capitalism, and it also goes down to like yes, and because when we talk about pride, and things like that, we have all these companies that are also now so prideful and like have one event at our communities to get our money. It's just like I'm going to support you to get money from you. So it also becomes like when pride, like cities, like I know in Philly, like our pride could be really corporate, and it's like also like, can you deny these people money? Like you have to check what they do for our community, not just say they come to pride. Like what do they actually do? And also it feel like they may come to you, I'll give you money if you come here, but let's deny those people because money talks. Because like if you deny, I'm not going to take your money because you're doing this, and spread that awareness, whatever. That's how you do it, instead of just like taking it. But it also really comes down to like can you really like not really like morals, but it's not even really morals, but it's also just like coming from our community. Like, it hurts our community, so why take from something that hurts our community? And it's also like I believe that it should be like I'm really like abolitionary. I'm abolitionary instead of like reform, because I believe like if something is broken, throw it away. Don't try to fix it, because this is nothing that we can fix. So it's all about just like cutting off from the source.
Myself and Love More Creative Black Trans TV, we will be attending the Philly Trans Conference. There's a multitude of reasons why, and of course I understand, Kay, your situation. We were the first to contact you in regards to publicizing the situation. So obviously we do give a fuck about people. We created this because we give a fuck about people. But at the same time, the erasure of black trans people will continue to happen in these super white spaces if we don't show the fuck up. So yes, politically in corporations, they don't give a fuck about us, but at the same time, if we don't show the fuck up, then we'll completely be erased from these spaces as they continue to rise and grow and get this money and get this funding, and we won't get funding, we won't get money. Now, I do think that it's fucked up to say, okay, my morals are XYZ for the people, but at the same time get the money and then not use the money for the people. So what I'm doing is I'm using my platform to get the white people's money, to take their money and use it for us. We give binders to people every single motherfucking week, specifically black and brown. White people hit us up OD. We go skip black. So we take the money that we get from white corporations and funnel it back into our people. So I do think there's a way that you can hopscotch around the bullshit and still be about the agenda and still be for the people. So I think that, yeah, you can be like, all right, cool, I'm revolutionary, I ain't about that shit, I ain't gonna fuck with it, right? But you're only gonna go so high. Why? Because like you said before, there's money here, there's money there. So how can we be like, all right, I'm for the people, I'm about the agenda, take the white people's money and funnel that back into us? That's how we get our money, because everything has been taken from us. So what we have to do is we have to take it from them to get it back to us. Unfortunately, that's just the way that fucking is. That's the system. So yeah, like you said, we can't fix the system, right? But we can't just say fuck the system. We have to work within the system, take what is ours because they created the system to make sure that we stay oppressed, and then actually flip it and oppress them. So that's kind of how I'm working, and that's how I'm navigating. So I will attend events that maybe everybody doesn't align with and agree with going, but understand that my agenda is the same as everybody else. I am making sure that our people get fed, get housing, get clothes. I shop. Every time I shop, I give away. I'm very conscious with the things that I do, even though I'm very much a capitalist, and that's just what it is. I'm a revolutionary and I'm a capitalist, and I think that you can do both at the same time and still be about the agenda and still be for the people.
What y'all think?
I mean, I have a question about choice. I'm like, do we have a choice? That the whole time I've been thinking, like, this is the society that we live in and that most of us were born into.
Yes.
So, what comes up for me is like the sacrifices black people have always had to make, especially black women. So you started the conversation with Lena Waithe, and I'm like, wow, I don't know. I think I care a lot about humans, right? I care a lot about like humanity and the sanctity of human beings. And I think it's easy for people to sort of become platforms or become, these ideas, and we forget all about the human being that is having to live their everyday life. I'm never mad at black people for surviving. And I think the way that you do that in a racist, white supremacist, capitalistic, fucked up system is gonna be different for everyone. I don't assume that Lena Waithe loves all of her white friends, but like that's a sacrifice she might have to make in order to be feeding somebody else. I don't know who she's feeding. I don't know whose Pampers she might be buying. I don't know who else she's employing. I literally have no idea. So I think it's a mistake as an individual to ever look outside of oneself for accountability. Or for responsibility, or, I think I can be inspired by people, I can be motivated by people, I can learn from them, but, it would be a mistake for me to let someone else and the choices they make influence the way that I live my life and that I make my choices and the way that I survive in the system. You know, I don't know that. You know, it's like, I don't know who took the MTA here today. It's like you participated in a white supremacist capitalistic system.
Yeah.
But like we all needed to get here today, you know? So like I'm not the one to be like, oh, you wearing Nikes, like you ain't for real, all you drink is, you know what I mean? It's like, look, you had to get up today, you had to go to work, you had to pay your bills. Like nobody in here with a job is outside of the capitalistic white supremacist system. It doesn't matter, you know, like how it happens. So I'm coming back to this idea of like, what are the choices that we have actually? And I don't assume that people who participate, you know, who align with white folks or whatever, I don't always assume that they love it either. Sometimes I think they are making sacrifices. So
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what you said about space and creating spaces, because we have people who hit us up from towns I never heard of, you know, and if they hear about the wellness conference, they're going to attend that because that's the only thing they know about. Now they do have a Black Trans Conference, I believe.
That we will be aligned with
Yeah,
as well.
that we're going to be going to this year,
Yeah.
but we just found out about it. Again, it goes back to knowing about things that's going on. And now we do know about it, so now it's something we can attend, and now we can tell other Black and brown people about it as well, so that they can attend from wherever they're coming from. I believe it's in Texas. So it's about making that connection, letting people know what's going on, because some people don't know.
Mr. Chris.
Oh yeah, Mr. Chris. See, other people are creating these spaces. We didn't have them before.
Right.
So if we didn't have them before, we are going to just attend the white conferences only. But now that we're creating these spaces, now we have some place to go.
But we're hitting all bases. That's what we're about. We're hitting all bases, make sure that everybody knows that we see them, we feel them, we love them, we want to hear what their issues are. Because maybe someone can make it to Philly, but can't make it to Dallas, and that's just what it is. And we also know that you know, lack of jobs, housing, and situation. Like if you can hop in a car and get to Philly, but you can't hop on a plane to get to Dallas, you feel me? Like who am I to be like, I'm not going to attend the Philly Trans Conference because of what happened to Kay, and why I say it, and that's so fucked up. That is fucked up. But at the same time, I can still reach people of my community as well. You know, like Buck is a homie, Aiden is a homie. We're doing work with them. They're very, very conscious and aware of the whiteness and the privilege. So we're making sure that we do align with people that do have the privilege, right? And that do have the access in order to make sure that we get what we need. So just making that clear.
But I also think like parallel alternatives are possible, right? So
Yeah.
the Trans Wellness Conference is happening on X date.
Correct.
Rather than going there, like y'all, we all could have our own alternate space in Philly at the same time, right?
Yeah, but
So, like,
resources, money, time.
no, I
money,
know, but
you know
and
what I'm
like if y'all go, like great, go. I'm not saying don't go, right? Like I preface this by saying like everyone has their own individual autonomy. Like you have your own context, right? If you need to go there for your larger initiatives, like go. But I'm saying that like divestment is also
Correct.
integral, and like we don't have to go to these things. We
Correct.
can build our own, and like what y'all do and what you've done for me, right? I'm always forever grateful.
Yeah.
But you know, I was just saying like I will never fuck with that.
Yeah,
I
I think
understood.
that's a good point to make. Like I think even last year, Black Trans TV and I, we had an event after the Trans Wellness Conference, and it was something that we thought of to have a space for people to go who were in town. Because a few times I went to Trans Wellness Conference and I didn't go. I was just in town to communicate and be amongst community. And so for people like that, you know, we had an event, and I think it's important to like have spaces like this. And not everybody has, you know, I think it goes back like not everybody has, number one, the will, the want, or the way to create a space like this. And I think for the people who can, I think you most certainly should. And I think if, like for instance, we all participate in capitalism, and that's something that we all do. Like, you know, I can't, that's just what it is. But I think, and I think my final thought on this, and then we'll move on to another topic, is Black folks can't escape capitalism. That's why we're here. But I think when it starts, when there is an opportunity for someone to get hurt or be killed, that's when we need to take a step back and see what it is that we can do to not participate, hold somebody accountable, or create something completely different so that we can save lives. And you know, because we've been talking about this conference so much, I don't want to end that we don't know if that group will come back. We don't know if they will be armed. It's Pennsylvania. Like, you know, we don't know. Well, we do know, actually, is that the conference didn't handle that well, and they haven't really been addressing it. So I think that is what we need to focus on. How do we make sure that accountability, when people have power and money, and whether it be black people or any other person on this planet, when they have money and they're creating spaces for people like us, we need to make sure that we're holding them accountable and that no one fucking gets hurt because they don't give a fuck. And so that's that for that topic. Does anybody have any final thoughts?
I was just want to say it kind of all goes back to like privilege and the privilege that we have, like if, like making space at these conferences or taking up space. Every time I try to go to a conference, I try to my homies, let's go. We're gonna go down this room. We're gonna all be in this one room. We're gonna all take up this space, and we ain't paying that motherfucking fee. So that's what we gonna do. So it's also just having the privilege to take up space and make up and have space as well. So.
Yeah, word. Okay, cool. All right, word. So I'm glad that we talked about that.
Right. Thank y'all for sharing. Thanks everybody for
that was super heavy,
giving
like,
space
super
and
heavy.
sharing
Like,
themselves.
you
Maybe
you brought it
talk
up.
about things.
No, for sure. But it
Can't just
It
say
needs to be
right.
it definitely is the most recent thing that I thought of that
Definitely.
participated. But I really want to human focus. That's an organization, but like Lena Waithe or I don't know, Jeremiah hasn't done anything problematic that I know. Or I'm just naming people up there that we know of. It's really important to hold people accountable because the last thing that we want to do is have them do something that we just we're what the fuck? You can't even come back with it. Can you come back? And now everybody's canceling them. So the next thing I like to talk about is masculinity and mental health. Yeah, it's wintertime. And right, and lots of other stuff too in my bag. So I just want to make sure that we all have a community for each other. For especially this time of year with family and holidays and obviously seasonal depression and things, whatever. This is just a really hard, because we can't go out and be fucking, I'm gonna just drink and party in the sunlight and fuck it all, right? So I really want to talk about how it is that we're showing up for ourselves, and if we're not, how can we? And how we're showing up for our brothers and our family and the masculine folks in our lives. And we know that it's more than just depression and for me bipolar disorder or anything like that. It's about also too toxic masculinity and just really because when I'm going through my worst mental health moments, in the past at least, I love to dump it on my femme partner, you take it, cause okay. And how we can make sure that as a community we're being good to ourselves and being good to people around us. I've also found I had a Kwanzaa event not too long ago, and it was really dope. People came over, we ate good food, we talked and stuff. We talked about the Kwanzaa principles, and someone had brought something up to me, and it really kind of resonated with me. And it was what did they say? They said, I would like for people to stop asking me to let them know if I need anything, because obviously that I need something. Number one, I'm black like you. You know what I'm saying? Number two, I'm queer like you. Number three, you know what I'm saying? So that particular person was going through loss. Their parent had passed recently. So I think we should ask ourselves, because I say that a lot, and it's true. I think a lot of us say, oh, yo, bro, let me know when you need something. Let me know when you need something, blah, blah, blah. But that's actually, I don't think the most effective way, the most mindful way to be there for our family, right? How can we make sure that we're actually proactive in caring for each other before it gets to a point where they really need something. Like, how are we, like, what are some ways in which you guys, like, maybe we can, like, bounce some ideas? Oh, yeah, go ahead. You already know, Tashawn. Get it.
Now you make almost, you treat it like a relationship. You make dates. So I recently, my friend lives in PA. She's not doing too well right now. So instead of me saying, do you need anything? I said, hey, I know my schedule. I'm gonna come out there from Sunday to Wednesday. Is that okay? I know she needs me. You know what I'm saying? I know she needs me there. She said, yeah, that's cool. Just let me know. That's how you do it. I took the initiative. You know, I make the dates. Sometimes I have friends who just randomly, and they don't even know. I'm telling you, I'll just get a cash app. I'm like, yo, how'd you know I needed that? Sometimes it's just things like that. Like we do things without the question. Sometimes we just make that initiative, take that first step. So that's one way that I like to do that for my friends.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you offer your help, but you don't really intend to give it, right? So it's like, oh, let me know when you need something. Let me know when you need that. And then when they actually do reach out, they actually, have the courage to say, hey, listen, I need you to do X, Y, D. Like, you know what? I'm busy. I can't do that. And I think that what you said with the intention to just be like, listen, like Joe's having this event. I was like, one, I don't do things on Sunday unless you fam and I'll fuck with you. So I love you, Joe. Because that's personal time for me. But because I love you, I came out. But also with that, I was like, if you need me before, if you need me to pull up early, I will do that. So that's me saying, like, listen, I don't even go out on Sunday, but for you, I'm going to come in, I'll come early if you need help setting up, grabbing things and things of that nature. And Joe's like, you know what, I think I got it, but thank you. You know what I'm saying? It's not, I didn't ask. I told Joe, like, I'm here for you if you need me. And I think that's how I navigate with all my relationships, because I think that also, oftentimes we put a lot of priority into our love relationships. Like, this is my lover. And so think about how you would treat your lover. And that's why I have multiple lovers, I have multiple friends. I treat them all with the same priority, right? So I check in on Joe like I would on my lover, and I check on Tashawn like I would with my lover. That's just how I navigate. Like, yo, bro, how you doing this morning? How you feeling? Did you eat? You know what I'm saying? Like, I check on my bros the way I check on my girls, the way I check on my, family, my mother. It's all the same level, and I think that we need to start doing that. So then you stop asking these questions because you're checking in on people on the daily.
I like that concept.
Yeah, that was good to be said. I agree totally. But also, I think that intention thing was like a big deal because often we hit up like, I've had those random urges to like, I haven't checked on that friend in a while. I'll send a message. And I just send the message. And I know nothing else after the message. And like, what did that do for anybody? Nothing.
What do you mean?
Like
you text
when
like,
checking
hey.
on a friend, like, when you're checking on a friend and you send like an empty message in a way, it's like just checking in, but you weren't really intending to listen on the check-in. Intention behind the check-in.
Okay,
So I've caught myself many times of sending a message and being like, hey, I'm here, or hey, like, I hope you're doing okay. But like, am I gonna listen if they need to send me a paragraph back and say I'm totally not okay? You know what I mean? Was I willing to listen further, or was I just making the stretch to say I made the stretch? Like, what is the intention behind the stretch? Like, checking intention is big because sometimes we have to catch ourselves in the intention. You don't mean to be unintentionally not caring. Like, it really isn't intentional because you thought about the person, but then you have to follow through. And like, a lot of us have issues with all of that.
And that takes energy. So you also have to make sure that you're good, which is
good.
why I focus on self-care and self-love. So when I'm good, I'm able to give of myself to those I give a fuck about. And that's what it is. So I intend to give a fuck about you because I intend to give a fuck about myself.
Yeah. That's big on, like, that's why I was like, today for me is self-care. I'm not going to work today. Like, I'm not going to do, like, I've been doing a lot. So I'm just like, I got to take care of myself because I need to, like, be available in this time, in this space. And, like, I'm noticing that I am on a different platform and other people are kind of coming to me and asking me for things, and like, I have it available. But if I'm not able to like process that mentally or slow down a little bit or like, just be okay in my own space, I can't really give that person what they need, hopefully, like truthfully, and feel good about it afterwards. Like, wow, like I was there for bro today, or I was there for the person I needed to be there for, or like this person was grateful for my time or my space or whatever it was, because you never know what it is. Like, it's not always food and money. Like, sometimes people just need to be like, wow, you're like me and we're together and that's great, and now I don't have to be alone. And it's very simple, you know what I mean? So like you were talking about holiday times and the seasonal depression, like, oh, I got all of it, and I already, I know exactly what you mean. So like, if I had like 8 people who were concerned and intentional about what they were doing with their lives and the people around them, right? Like, we would have been in a better space together. and I know that. And it's just like now that I'm seeing that, like having this space available and like kind of putting it all in our heads, I feel like when we leave today, we're gonna check on a whole bunch of friends randomly because we feel bad. But it's okay. Don't just take it easy with yourself. You know what I mean? Like because this is where it begins. Like we're holding ourselves accountable. And if you do feel inclined, yeah, check on your friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, that's probably what friends are for. You should do that. So I feel that, and I'm kind of grateful to hear it again. You know, so thank you for sharing that. Like with how you take care of yourself. Because like I've been struggling to take care of self. I'm just like I'm gonna work, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I get home and I'm like, brain crash. You know what I mean? And I have nothing left, gone, empty, dead. You know what I mean? I don't want to have a dead battery. I want to be at full charge so that I can help recharge my other fellow families and like around me. So like that's what I have to say.
Word. I like that. Anybody else got some like ways that you might check in on your friends or whatever? I have slumber parties.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's
Definitely
like that's my joint. Like
Cuddle cuddle.
yeah, like you know, like what?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and I think we don't really. I think.
Because it's unmasculine. You can't have slumber parties. Are you kidding me?
That's what I was about to say. I think what it is a bit a tint of like. I think masculinity does keep a lot of us from reaching out to our friends and like treating our friends like our lovers. Like I treat my friends like my lovers too. You know, I call them boo and baby and zaddy and all that.
That feels good.
You know what I'm saying?
Good.
Like, it feels
It
good.
doesn't have to be that.
And it's not like, you know, it doesn't matter what it sounds like. We know what it is, so what does it even matter? Number one, and then number two, it's like having intimate times with your friends, like cuddling and hugging and like cooking for them and asking them how their girl is and be like, no, like for real, how y'all? Cause y'all like, how are you?
We know, right?
You know what I'm
We
saying?
all argue every day.
Like having those type of conversations and like providing like an open door for them to be able to pass in and out, you know, without judgment or feeling like they're restrained in any way from it. So like I think that those things are really important, those tender times, those tender moments, and I really feel like if we had more of them, we can open up and be more vulnerable with each other and therefore share things like with each other and be like, you know what I'm saying, like just real heavy shit, like bro, like, you know, the other day it was real fucking rough, man, like I almost took it there. You know what the fuck I mean when I say that, like I almost took it there, and you know, like damn, like, you know what I'm saying, like I know why you didn't call me, because usually when I'm having those moments, I never call anybody, and that's me. Like I don't call people when I'm going through it, and I think it's important to like be able to have those conversations and say like that was where I was, so that we can have a conversation and be like, oh, how can we prevent it in the future, or like how can I be there for you in the future, and I think how it would be I would like to know like how you guys, like how do you like to be cared for?
Right, that's what I was gonna say. For me, just
Like how do you like to be cared for? I like food. Feed me, please.
Yeah. my way of giving is to cook because that's my love. So like, if you're hungry, you don't like just call me like I'm gonna cook. Like I go to people's houses all the time, like, and it's be like I'm gonna make chili. No, I'm gonna make the chili. You're gonna sit down. So it's like, how did you do that, right?
Yeah.
That's my way of loving. So.
Anybody else?
Oh, I need phone calls too. Like FaceTimes are great. Totally FaceTime.
Yeah.
It's not exactly the answer to that question, but it was what I was thinking about. I'm Jackson, by the way. My pronouns are they, them, or he, him. You started off by talking about masculinity and mental health and how are we proactive. And I think breaking down this idea of masculinity, which, you know, centers around like yang energy, active energy, being strong, being a pillar, you know, taking weight, carrying weight, right? Like those are the things that are associated with masculine energy. But there's a myth that means that there's no vulnerability, there's no flexibility, there's no bend or give, right? So receiving care is, I think, part of how we are proactive in making sure that we stay mentally healthy. Because even though I think some of us, I'm gonna talk about myself. For me, even before I was perceived as a masculine or centered person, I still felt that pressure of like, I need to be strong. I need to be strong. I need to carry the weight. I need to not show that I'm weak. And accepting help, accepting care, being supported, those are all things that make me weak, right? But you know, if you look at the structure of a bridge, like it's built so that there's give, so that when the wind blows, it doesn't just fucking fall over, right? So like there needs to be some give, some flexibility. So I think part of what's most important is like, letting ourselves receive help from people, which for me is like huge struggle. Like the other day, we had to do laundry, and I was like, yo, there was one bag, I was like, we're not gonna be able to carry this bag. Like, it's not happening. And my girl was like, no, I'm gonna carry it. And I was like, and I was mad the whole time too, right? Because like she walking down the street with 2 big ass bags, I got 1, but I was hurting that day, you know.
That's hard.
Like I'm in pain today, and like the bag, it didn't have to get washed, but she was like, I'm gonna carry it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna let you do it, you know. Like I'm gonna swallow whatever that voice is inside of my head that says I should always be carrying more than you when we're walking down the street, you know, because people are gonna look at us or whatever. They're gonna look at me like, why the fuck ain't you carrying all the bags? You know, and like I have to just let that shit go because like the laundry needs to get done, and that's part of my self-care. It's like having clean clothes, you know, to put on my body. So I think it's like, breaking down those social constructs of like what masculinity has to be or has to look like, and knowing that strength is like within strength there's flexibility. Like you're not truly strong if you're not able to be flexible, you know. So.
And I think, I'm sorry.
No, we're just saying yes.
Going off of that point, I think I learned that after top surgery, when I literally couldn't do anything for myself. So I had my girl doing everything for me, from washing my body, making my food, carrying groceries. And I remember we talked about that too, how like that redefined the idea of manhood and masculinity. Like, wow, okay, I go through this beautiful process to be authentically who I am, yet I'm stripped of the ability to be all that I thought I was supposed to be. But now I'm realizing that I can define that, and that just because I can't do X, Y, and Z with strength, you know, for me, I'm still who I am, and more so than I was before when I could. So I think that was a moment when I really, really understood the shift that I defined who I was, because I was unable to do a lot of things, and it made me more open and vulnerable, period, with my identity. So that just triggered and just brought that back to me.
All right.
You made a point, and it just reminded me of like humility. And I feel like there's strength in having humility. So like, you know, when you are weak, when you do have those weak moments, like it doesn't define who you are, like in the grand scheme of things, or even in that moment. It's like, all right, I'm weak right now, but I'm not a weak person.
Yeah.
So, and there's strength in like accepting that, like even in that moment. So, for sure.
For me, like going back to what you said about like how we need to be cared for, I posted a couple days ago. I was on my way back from DC. I'm sitting on the bus. I'm like, okay. I posted on Twitter. I'm like, I'm in a really weird place emotionally, and I just really like, I feel vulnerable. Don't know if it's a bad thing or what I'm even feeling, but I just need like a lot of like tenderness and love and affection and stuff. And I realized when I posted, a lot of people were just like, oh wow, like thank you for sharing that, and oh my gosh, and all this stuff. And I posted it for me, because like that's how I'm feeling. But I also, a lot of people were coming to me and they're like, well, you as a man saying that you feel vulnerable and this is, you need love and affection and tenderness, and vocalizing that. And I sat on that bus and I'm just like, I guess we don't do that enough. And I know for me, after my transition, I also start to realize that people don't care for me in ways that they used to care for me. So pre-transition, if I even looked sad, I'd get wrapped up in hugs and love and I love yous and cares and all this stuff. But after I transitioned and got my little facial hair or whatever, people started looking differently, like, oh no, you'll be okay, or like, oh, that's part of the process, or you toughen up, or this, that, and the third. And I realize now, that it's been a few years, I'm just like, I need more love and affection. Like, I need more open love and affection, more than just like a word. I need a hug. I need a pat on the back. I need, like, you know what I mean, just some type of physical affection. So I think in ways that I'm learning now that I want to explore more this year, it's just like physical affection with friends, lovers, parents, whatever. Like, I just need a physical touch more so than like just a pat on the back. My dad does this thing now where he won't give me a hug. He just daps me up when he sees me. So I'm gonna have a conversation with him and say, Dad, I just need a hug. Like, stop all that. Like, I don't want to do that. I just need a hug. You know what I mean? So going back to, you know, how we need to be cared for this year, for me, definitely more tenderness and like gentleness, even in masculinity and however that idea looks. Just, I still need a hug sometimes, you know.
To piggyback off of that, it's interesting because my brother, I work late, so I came in pretty early in the morning. Before I left to come here, he's working on his room, and he was like, let me give you a hug. And I'm not overly touchy. I'm not, and it's funny because I could be very emotional as a poet. I could be very emotional, but at the same time, it's like weird for me. So I don't like too much touching. I like to talk a lot. Contrary to what we have, I could talk a lot. So me and my brother could talk for 3-4 hours, and that's a lot of love for me. We talked about a lot. It was last weekend. We talked for 3 hours when I came home, and I love that. I could talk to him about anything. That's what I felt, and that's the love that I need from people that's close to me. Just to talk. We could talk about anything, and literally anything, and that will make me feel complete. That will make me feel a lot better being with the person close to me. But the touching, it could be. I know what it is. It didn't happen when I was younger. So as I've gotten older, it's just something I'm working on. Just put it like that. Something I'm working on. But as of right now, it's still kind of funny, you know. So that's for me. It's the talking.
And I think it's fair to say, like, I mean, and it's something that I had to learn in growing and learning and loving other people and interacting with people and experiencing extreme disappointment from the people that I cared about the most, is that we're all just hurt little babies. And that's just really what it is. We're really just all hurt little babies. And really trying to like tap into the inner child and like really soothing it, and like, you know, that takes vulnerability. It takes vulnerability to say like, yo, like my mom used to like not fuck with me like that. So it's really hard for me to be able to give hugs, and you know, like I can count maybe on one hand how many times my mother has told me she loved me, and like, but we still talk every fucking day. Like it's weird, but it is what it is, and you know what I'm saying. And but like sometimes, like, you know, when I'm on the phone with my friend, I'm like, you love me. You love me. And like I'll just have those spoken moments like, bro, just like tell me you love me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I need you to tell me that, and like being okay with that, like that's perfectly fucking fine with me. And like even in my head, in the back of but I'm just like, bro, but you don't need, like, do you really gotta whine like that? I'm like, yes, I do have to whine like that. Like, cause that's my way of like tapping into my inner child. And I think like saying that that's okay, like it's okay that you've been hurt, and it's okay that you want to cry, and it's okay that like for like the 5th fucking time your car won't start and you just want to fucking break down in the middle of the goddamn street, like just fucking cry, and no one's gonna stop and help you because they don't think you're fucking crazy, and you ain't even fucking care anyway. Like it's okay to like have those fucking moments, like especially like as a black person, like yo, like I can't tell you how hard it is, like when you experience bad, and we've all had this moment. When we experience bad news, or like we're somewhere and we're like really having a real bad moment, but we gotta like walk on the street, and like we gotta walk on the street, and like we are nowhere near home, but you cannot hold it in, and you're just like, and then you masculine as fuck too, and you're just like, your pants are saggy, like, and if anybody else tries you, like you are going to fucking break down, and it's just like. Why can't we just, like, cry? Like, why just can't we cry? Why just can't we hug? Why can't we hold? Why can't, you know what I'm saying? Without all that extra stuff. Without someone telling us that we're less than, or we're not that, or we're not enough, or, you know what I'm saying? It's just, why can't we get the white woman treatment? I just don't understand. We all been to Trader Joe's. We see how it works. Like, why can't we get the white woman treatment?
There's no more cavities.
You know what I'm saying? That, you know, the apple can treatment. Why can't we get what we, you know, the love and the affection, and like, fuck society giving it to us, because we know that we're not gonna get it, but like, why can't we get it from each other? Like, you know what I'm saying? At the very least. And so, yeah, I think, does anybody have like any, like, want to share ways that they like to be cared for? Yeah, what's going on?
Hi everyone, I'm Giselle. I go with she, her pronouns. For me, one of my love languages is words. So I like to write my friends cards. And recently as well, like Tashawn mentioned about like touch. Touch is something I'm extremely sensitive towards. Like sometimes if you even just like touch my shoulder, I'd like flinch. Not out of fear, but out of just like it being a very uncommon or unfamiliar feeling to me. And I know recently having a lot of conversations with my friends about touch and how that shows up, I'm so much more open to hugs and whatnot. And even just like the idea of inserting intimacy into friendships, like going on dates. Like, that's something I was just like, isn't this like, my mind was like, this is just a very black and white thing. Like, you only go on dates with people you're intimate with physically, and like you want to pursue potentially romantic relationships. But I've had friends who like, you know what, let's go out on a date, and like just practicing like how to flirt, literally little things like practicing how to flirt with someone, just like being more comfortable and open and talking about so many ranges of conversation. And that for me, when it comes to showing up for my friends and being cared for, that's something that I really hold value. And I don't necessarily want to switch the conversation too much, but I do have a topic that I wanted to kind of bring up in hopes of getting some more voices in the room, perhaps. Okay. So let me know if anyone also wants to talk on that topic. That Go right ahead.
Does anyone? We'll get back to that.
Yeah, I can talk about how I enjoy to be cared for. I don't really need my friends to do much for me. I'm more of a giver, period. That's like with lovers and friends and things of that nature. I'm fortunate to be in a situation where my mother is my best friend, and she provides a lot of emotional support, physical support that I need. So anytime that I ever need, like, to be vulnerable, to be open, to cry, to be held, I just go home to my mom. And she provides that for me. So I'm very grateful to have that, so I don't feel like I need that from my friends. And so I do feel like you don't have the pressure to really check in on me. Like, most of my friends don't have to check in. I'm more so checking in on them. And if my friends do check in on me, it's more so because I work a lot, so just make me laugh. That's pretty much all I really ask for. Like, just something little silly, something like that. That really helps me, and that's kind of how I like to be cared for. But I don't really need anything from anybody because I'm grateful to have a mother that provides that. And, you know, now we're at a point where I'm getting older, she's getting older, and, like, one day she's no longer going to be there for me. So I think when that happens, then I might need more care from people that are in my immediate circle. But I guess I just wanted to say, because I know you were talking about, like, we're big babies, and fortunately I'm able to be my mom's big baby. And I think oftentimes a lot of people don't have that, so that they do look for their friends. So I'm not saying that, you know, it's one or the other, but I do think it does matter when you have that safety net with your parent, and then you deal with your friends differently. But yeah, I just wanted to note that.
I tell my girlfriend all the time, she like grew up in a 2-family household, the parents are still together, you know, like still in love. And I'd be like, parents are a privilege, parents are a privilege. Parents are a privilege, they are, especially ones that actually love their mom when she, you know, especially in our community. I noticed that all my niggas got mother issues, like, for the most part, like 80% of them, I could say. So I think it's really important that, you know, that thank you for acknowledging that. And
Well, I feel like my main three, but I like reflection, like people just to hear my reflection, just how I feel. So like just like hearing me out, just listening, like that's my biggest love language. Is like I need, you know, just to listen to me, because like I have so much going on in my head, but like once I get it out, it kind of makes all sense. So like that's really, and also like taking pictures and videos like with my friends. That's a real love language for me. I like to remember those who and keep the moment that I love. And I'm realizing that like I need more affection from my friends, but I'm also just don't know how to go about that. Most of my friends are masculine folks. They're trans masculine folks. So it's also that kind of like where like toxic masculinity that some like, you know, trans masculine folks take in, you know, try to fit this image. So I'm trying to also, as a non-binary trans masculine folk, I was trying to break my friends out of that, because sometimes I need a hug, nigga. Like the fuck. So it's also like that. But like before I grew up I didn't get that much affection. So like it is weird for me with family members, but like with friends it feels much better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to say that was with Joe and with Sir. I hug y'all all the time, and I love hugging y'all. But with family, it's interesting. It's different. It's like a different type of hesitation, and we don't hug like that. Like it could be holidays. I mean, you come in, you give like the little soft, like, hey, what's up? But it's not like how when me and you hug, when me and Sir hug. It's not the same type of embrace. It's different. So I could honestly say, like with friends, my mom used to always say, she's like, you love your friends way
So
too
much,
much.
yeah.
She used to tell me that a lot, but I really do. Like, I got a lot of love from my
Same.
friends.
But she sees that too when she comes around, and I'm like, oh, doesn't he look handsome today? And she'll be hesitant. And I'm just like, my bro looks good today. Like, say something, and then she still be like, you know, but like, I think she sees that like we do love on each other. And sometimes people like somebody commented on one of our videos and was like, y'all would make a cute gay couple. Because we love each other, and that's the thing. It's like masculine people don't be loving on each other all the time. Like I'll be like, I'm proud of you, bro. You did really great today. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead, you go ahead and speak. I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna watch you. Be like, you're doing the damn thing. Like, and people see that our interaction is very loving, and then they're like, oh, y'all fucking. Like, what?
We're just loving.
You know what I'm saying? Why does it have to go there? Why does it have to go there when two masculine people are loving each other?
And I also feel like it goes like comfortability with body, because with me, like I haven't had top surgery yet, so that's like kind of weird with me to hug people. Like, because I don't know, it's like I don't want you that close to my body. But with my friends, it's like fine also at that. So that's also a reason why I'm kind of like, you know, people. It's a thing where you can ask people to hug. I love when people ask me.
Yes,
I love it. Like it really like you know, I can if in the moment, you know, I might say no, but if I might say yes, if I'm feeling, it depends on how I'm feeling my body at the time.
Yeah. Wait, I'm going in.
Dive.
I saw people diving to look. I'm like, I'm gonna talk. Gotta get it. Leo moment. Okay, Leo in the room. Check me. So, wow, I've been listening to what I'm hearing, and it's bringing up things for me. So, like, trigger warning. I don't know how anybody feels about loss or like bereavement. I lost my mom last year, right? So, for me, touch has been very weird, right? Me and my mom had a very different hug life, like a very close, like, I just lay or just lean or just hold, because that's the mom thing, the big babies, exactly. So, even before that, though, like, my friendships are very, like, this is how I'm close to you. This is it. This is all you can have. This is enough. We're good. No more. You know what I mean? So that's how it is. And it's not because, it's almost because it reminds me of my mom. It reminds me of the love that I'm receiving. So it's hard to receive the love because often they refer to grief as love with no place to go. Right? So like, I need to love on people. I need to hug on my friends. I need them to hug on me. But instead it's been like, nice job, or like pat on the back kind of life. You know, very, very like, I want to love you, but I'm not sure how. Like, just very awkward because it's like, you want to remember the love that you hold from that, but then you also don't want to like make people feel guilty because they're trying to love on you in that same fashion. And it's just hard to receive it, like being a transmasculine folk, like just being out there. Like I also haven't had top surgery, so when I hug people, like, I mean, I'm a little more close because I'm just like that kind of person. I'm very warm, like cuddly, buddly kind of thing. But at the same time, I hug out, like I hug away from people. You know, just like because, and that's not the touch I need. I need to feel this person in my arms, but I'm hugging you like with all the other thoughts outside of like just getting what I need right now, just having the feeling of having someone like hold me, embrace me, like all of me, who I am. You know what I'm saying? So it is very difficult, and I think that my love will probably resemble like more physical touch. Like I'm hearing some people say like more physical or not physical for you like to talk. I like to talk, but sometimes I just don't even know what to say. So I'd rather you just like take my little head and put it on your shoulder, you know, because I don't know what I'm about to say, and it might not even make no sense. So I prefer like a little more touch or dates. Somebody said dates in here somewhere, like making dates with friends. Okay, yeah. Like making dates, like I don't do that a lot, and I've caught myself like, you don't really meet up with your friends. No wonder you have weird relationships. Like, you know, like you have to think of those things because you don't mean to be away, but then you feel away and like, bros don't need to hang out because we're bros. Like there's a very toxic thing going on with the masculinity.
A lot of times I hear a lot of conversations about people who have mass partners or who are friends with mass folk, and because there's a lack of self-awareness or even like relationships with their parents, their moms or whatever it is, and the inability to really speak on what care looks like for them, a black femme or a black woman's attempt to care for that person becomes really harmful. So what are the ways that, how do those conversations happen? Because it's great that this space is available for mass folk to consider and talk about what care looks like, but for the people that love and care about you, how do we learn how to do that?
I think, go ahead.
Because I've kind of like thought about this conversation a lot because I've been realizing that like most films are kind of just pairing off each other, just not, you know, we can match close behind. But I've also thought about like, you know, there's my masculinity, then there's toxic masculinity. Like it's all about being equitable, all about in those spaces. Like I know that my masculinity is not toxic, but masculinity topic as a whole, so it has left people with scars. So going into any space with femmes or anything, I'd like to be very equitable, like ask how they are, or the case may be, but also just be unaware that they may not be responding to my masculinity being toxic, but also just what that looks like, and just also being aware of what my masculinity is, and like, does it require this, or does it require that, or does it not involve this, or not involve that? I feel like I'm very sensitive. Like I am. I'm very sensitive, very to my emotions. I'm very I cry kind of a lot, but and I feel like that's something that I need to do. But also being aware of and also just disconnecting yourself or trying to unlearn these things is really crucial. I feel like before I came out as non-binary, trying to live up to this society to try to be a man was killing me. It was literally killing me. It was such depression because I wasn't 6'5", or I wasn't this, or I wasn't that, and it was just making me feel really horrible about myself. So, and also just kind of unlearn what we see and trying to just learn what we need. And if what we need fits into our masculinity, that's your masculinity. If that's just gotta figure out your masculinity is what you need.
I feel like there's a misconception sometimes that we need you to take care of us. If we're saying do you need me to carry that bag? We can probably do it. We don't need you to carry the bag. We can take care of ourselves. We are genuinely asking, what do you need? And if you need to cry right now, there are some femmes who will act completely disgusting towards that. Oh, you want to cry because that's the way they learned masculinity is supposed to operate. But because we have conversations like this is an opportunity for us to recognize that people perform masculinity in their own ways. And if you need to cry, we can cry together. I'm a Virgo, I like to cry. But no, I think that's
Not even y'all season. Calm down.
But yeah, I think that's a really good question, especially femininity and masculinity for me are and I had spoken about this when I did Redefining Soft. Shout out to Robbie. Robbie was good. But when I did Redefining Soft, which was a space for masculine identified folks to come through and just really talk about their emotions and what soft meant to them and that word. I had mentioned to the group was just masculinity to me is what somebody put on me. It's not necessarily something that it's always been something that someone's put on me. It's always been what how masculine you think that I am is how masculine you think that I am. It's not how masculine I am or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's everyone else's idea of masculinity is what I am masculine wise, right? Unless I'm super macho and I'm overexerting my masculinity past what they think that I am, right? So it's really hard, when a lot of people, especially I primarily date femmes, when they get into relationships with me and they're like,
I love that. You're a little Timmy right now.
I'm very feminine, masculine person.
you have to embrace that.
Yeah, and I do. No, trust me.
Yo.
Yeah, I definitely do. But it is very interesting because I find that my femme partner is a little bit more masculine too.
Yeah,
And that's something that I look for. Maybe they didn't know when they got with me. And that's something that I look for. It's a little, you know what I'm saying? I like the high femme look, but I definitely like a masculine person just in my life.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? To just date
Just
and
do
also
the
to fuck
things.
me like that.
Right.
Is what I like. Right? So, and that's my flavor.
Right.
And I want it wrapped up in a femme bow.
Right.
That's my shit. But then I find that and I think it's very important when Chris and we're talking about how we can present ourselves in a way that's not express ourselves in a way that so that femme folks aren't being hurt
and that we're not like taking up too much space or something like that. I think that conversation is really super important. And it's funny because in my relationship now, like there's times I have to be like, babe, like I don't really want to talk about that right now. Like I'm really, and like where she's kind of expressing herself emotionally for me, and I have to be like, wait, that's a little bit too much for me to handle. And I think like like being okay in establishing like boundaries, and you're like there needs to be some kind of like emotional, like, hey, like we've been talking about how much you hate this bitch at your job an hour now. What you got? And you haven't asked me how my day was.
Right.
And now, and you know what I'm saying? And like, whatever, let's swap it. Like, it doesn't really matter who's doing it. I think really what it is like emotional boundaries. Like, how do we establish emotional boundaries in our relationship where like we're like treading really lightly on our partners, and like because it's like this shit's fucking hard out here. Like it's crazy. Like you know what I'm saying? There's a lot going on. Especially we scrolling through like oh shit another month. God damn, like
It's very heavy.
it's super fucking heavy. So it's just like how do we go home and be like take some time, light a candle,
Right, just out of that.
get the damn Hulu on and where you could do that with your shit.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, really, like, how you doing? How you feeling? You had a really rough day at work? Bet. Let me put this tea on,
Right.
and I'm gonna come sit down.
Right.
You cool? I'm cool. We can talk about it now.
And I also.
Well,
But really quick, does anybody else wanna?
I mean, I have something to touch on what we spoke about like 20 minutes ago about embracing your masculinity and embracing like your femininity. And growing up, I grew up in like a Jamaican household. My dad's like a minister, so it's like very strict. You know what I mean? And we didn't really get opportunities. Like emotional support was like not there because Jamaican parents think like I put a roof over your head, food on the table, shoes on your feet, you got everything you want and could ask for and much more. So really you don't have to complain about anything.
Right.
So for me, like that was an issue growing up where I would like act out and like because I'm a very verbal person.
Right.
You know, something bothers me, I feel like I have to say it or else it like bottles up. And teaching that to another generation, teaching or unteaching myself that, and teaching my son how to, love, how to love and be loved, and how to embrace whatever it is that he feels. Like all the kids in my house, they're very verbal. And that's so different from how I grew up and how my sister grew up. Now that they can, like express themselves in a sense. And funny story, not really funny, but the other day my brother-in-law told my son said, oh, that guy is beautiful, or something of that sense. And my brother-in-law was like, boys can't be beautiful. And I looked at him and I was like, boys can be whatever they want to be. He can say he's beautiful, he's handsome, gorgeous, whatever the hell it is. Like, we have to embrace everything that comes with us. And I feel like we grow up in that sense of boys don't cry, boys don't wear pink, this, that, and the third. And it's like, they do and they can if they want to.
Yeah.
So.
Word, thank you for sharing that. No, it's serious. It's serious. So, just, and, rap, what the hell? Okay, 2:45. So I guess we got about like 15 minutes for it's over, but I just wanted like if y'all could just both you guys could briefly wrap up. Y'all good? Okay.
Oh, all right. I will.
Okay.
I will end.
Okay.
I will end just because. Again, here's that thing. So I was trying to like very catch up with all the things that are being said, but the thing that you were saying about how like being open to your own way of addressing your masculinity and what it means. Like for me, like when I first transitioned, I was very looking forward to the cis male perspective of manness, whatever the hell that meant at the time. So now that I'm like completely unaddressed that, and I'm like, oh, I can do what I want. Oh, I can be like as masculine or as feminine as I want. It has nothing to do with anything else, and that's great. And like I've just figured those things out. So like being able to navigate that in the space, like femme presenting folks, like femme people, is like harder to be a little open because I want to seem a little more masculine because that's what they want, right? But no, like I'm doing all this assuming and all these things are happening and it's all from the toxic masculinity spectrum and I'm like, like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, like where do you go in this moment? And like, I'm just grateful that I'm experiencing or like learning for myself what my masculinity, what my femininity means. You know what I'm saying? And like what I do like in other people and how they express their masculinity and femininity. And it doesn't have to be whatever I want it to be. So I just like, it's appreciating hearing. That's all.
Yeah, and that's all of this is mental health. Like all of this
those things are
is really like understanding that you can be whatever the fuck that you want to be, and like that's soothing your soul. You have to feed what's inside of you, what you say that you are. You know what I'm saying? And like that's so important because if you begin to listen to what other people say about who you are, then you'll be subtracting more and more of yourself from the equation, right? So like, and that plays a part with like how you end up feeling. And also like, you know, you get fucking frustrated, like, you know what I'm saying? Your girl like, give me that goddamn jar, can't open no pickles. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. Like, no, seriously.
I couldn't open the champagne bottle.
And it was a lot. Like, I had to like really quickly like talk to myself. I was like, wow, I can't open these roasted red peppers. I need somebody to help me. Because I can't. Like, I'm gonna be real. I had to be like, ooh, but do I try a little more? Like, no, I'm just gonna give the roasted red peppers up because I can't fucking do it. And like being okay with that, like asking my girlfriend, like, babe, can you please tie my shoes? I have the worst stomach ache. If I bend over, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Like some little stupid shit that like we don't like. We'll fight through it. Like, why do we have to endure pain just to get to the other side? It's just not. It doesn't. It's not helpful. So like, I really want us to think about like as we talked about like what are the ways that we would like to love ourselves and like what are things that help us show ourselves love. Like share that with people. Like share that with people that you feel would listen and would value that information and take that and turn it into like active energy that they can put towards you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like now I know. Like Giselle like cars. I already know how y'all like. So I got y'all. Like, but now I know how to love you and like, you know what I'm saying? I know how to love you and like. That's so important to me as somebody who wants to love you guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? To be able to have these conversations with you and like let you know like that I'm here for you and like there's so many people in this room that are here for you and like there's so many different ways to love each other. And we don't just, it doesn't have to be limited to a dap or a head nod or like just saying what's up to somebody in a room or following somebody on whatever social platform. Like that's not love. Like that's not. It's not. It's like it's a. It's. I mean, but it's not. Social media is not love because it's not
real.
It's not real, and I think we need to understand that. Like it's
professional stalkers.
It's great. It's a great way to show and like transactional thoughts, but it's not reach and touch. And like I want us to be able to do that. So if anybody does end up sharing their social media platform, but like also like. Hit them up and like really set a tone for like how we can create real relationships with each other. But I do want to hear the topic that you wanted to talk about. Maybe we could talk about it for the next complex conversations, which I will be trying to do next month, and they probably will be here. And you already know I'm coming to Philly, so that's you know what I'm saying. Like that's nothing. But yeah, Giselle, what was the topic?
Well, we kind of touched upon it. Kind of in parts, and forgive me if it in my head sounds like elementary, but the word like accountability has like kept coming up like throughout the room, and it's something that I think you really mentioned like whole like cancellation. Like I'm not like I personally am like not for that.
Yeah.
I don't really understand it and like what its benefit and end game is, and so my question has to do with like. How do people, what does like accountability show up, like look like for you when it comes to like the friends that you have in your spaces, or your parents or whatnot, or even quote unquote like you know people who have bigger platforms such as Alina Wake and whatnot? Because I think, at least for me, what I've grown to understand is that people are human, and human means mistakes, and it means learning. And so that's kind of the conversation I wanted to open up, but we definitely can transition that for next time.
No, I can give you my thought on that real quick.
I think for me, when I think about holding people accountable, it's asking, not just like letting them know that they did something that hurt me or had possibly hurt someone else. It's also like demanding that they make it right, and that they do it in a reasonable time. Like they not like someday you need to apologize. Like no, you should probably hit them up today and like say sorry, and then a follow up too. So not just that you said sorry, but like whether it be something actionable, like okay, so you said sorry to this group of people and you donated money or time or energy to that organization to an organization that benefits those people. So that's like if we're talking about organization, like something like that. But like somebody like my mom, like I had to hold my mom accountable the other day. I told her I was like, when I was fucking in 6th grade, you didn't let me play a saxophone because you said that was for boys, and I'm hurt, and that's fucked up, and I really want you to acknowledge that because that is why I threw the clarinet in the trash.
That's real.
And she was like, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Well, I'd like to say hi, everybody.
Hey.
My pronouns are he, him. I just want to tell everybody that y'all all are beautiful. Hugs are free. Hugs help me. So if y'all like to give me a hug, right here. Give me a hug, and I'm piggyback. Yeah.
I just want to say that I learned a lot today. It's my first time being in this space with so many different people, and you guys are all courageous, you guys are all beautiful, and I learned a whole lot. And I want to thank you guys all for sharing.
Thank you for coming.
It's awesome.
Now it's a little different in this room.
Right? So this concludes the complex, the third. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, bro.
Thanks, Sunny. I just want to say one of the reasons that we don't see as many people here awfully is because of capitalism. We can't always get here, but the fact that this exists is great. And then hopefully we can have something like this in other places like Philly. But it's just you're working all the time where you're trying to find a job or whatever it is, so you can't even get to that place where you're with other people that are like yourself and that know exactly what you're going through. And that can be really hard because you're just trying to fit in with this whole, or you're trying to not even fit in, but break through this whole barrier of I'm conforming to the system to get money all the time, blah blah blah, whatever. Or maybe you're not conforming to the system, and then it's even harder for you. So I feel like having places like this makes it so much easier to just be we're with people that know what we're going through. And just thank you for being here,
I
everybody.
appreciate that. Y'all got it. As many times as my wallet says I can do this. Because I really appreciate it. And this concludes Complex Conversations. There's snacks, there's a little drink, there's a little water.
Tip from the box.
Exchange of love.